doing today? Great to see all of your lovely little names and beautiful faces over here in chat. You look so sexy today. I just can't believe how good you look. How is everyone? Hello. There has been a lot going on, especially in the Warhammer sphere. I'm sure you've all noticed. Activate jazz.
I made it right on time, smile.
You did make it right on time. Hello there, chat. Okay, so... Ooh, you know, we're starting to get kind of big enough streams as far as like the number of people showing up in chat that we may need to start considering slow modes in the future. Because there's actually starting to be like, A, a lot of y'all, and B, y'all are very talkative, which is great. I'm super excited about that. It's just like, we might have to consider that in the future. Okay, so yes, there is a new video out today. If you haven't had time to go check it out, that's fine. We're gonna be kind of rehashing a lot of it here, though obviously it'll be a little bit more of a discussion. Thanks for the hype train, by the way, guys. I really appreciate it. Speaking of hype, I have a cool announcement for y'all because I want to do something to celebrate hype here in just a little bit, but we'll talk about it once people have a little bit more time to file in, because we have some more people coming in. Oh, my back. All right, so obviously there's a lot going on right now in the Total War sphere. We have a whole lot of new information about Immortal Empires, so we're going to talk about that. We got some potential cool Vermintide stuff happening, so we'll talk about that, and all that stuff. I'm pregnant? No, sadly not. You know, been trying, but yeah, no, it just doesn't take for some reason. I can't figure out why. In any event, let's go ahead and get caught up
X100
on all
Why
these.
Why did Meme Blade die when he went treasure hunting in Cymru? He forgot his shades.
Hammond, I hate you so much. Hammond, I want you to know that I literally made the lore stare emote. Fuck, emotes, hold on.
Festus.
I just remembered something. So we have, for those who have access to our emotes, we have a, or I think it's actually So Stare now, but we have a Sotek Stare or So Stare emote I literally made just for Hammond, which is just Eltharion just being like, you know, disapproving. Yes, new emotes. I have new emotes. I need to upload them real quick. It'll take me just a second. It's easy. I've actually got 2 new emotes for y'all. I just have to get into... I have to get into my Dropbox. Did I seriously not? Oh my god. Scroll.
Under the lore of Sotek.
I will get caught up on all of the subs and bits and stuff in just a minute. Hold on. I just want to give y'all some new toys to play with. Here we go. I'm gonna bookmark this. Yeah, I've been getting some lovely emotes from our emote artist. Oh no, we got 3 new emotes. Oh baby. Oh, we got some really cool ones too. Okay, hold up. Download. I think I only need the 112 by 112 pixels. Okay, and then I need to go to your dashboard. I'm professional. I totally didn't forget to do this until the last possible freaking second. Okay, so then I've got to move around some emotes. Oh god. Okay, upload new emotes. 2 new standard emotes. Okay, yeah, we're getting to the point where we're gonna have to like start cycling some of our emotes, which is fine. Okay, so first give me this one. Should it just be... So, okay, chat, real quick. If there's a mod, I actually need y'all's help with naming this emote. We have a headpat emote, but should it be So Pat or should it be So Headpat? Or Sote Pat or Sote Headpat? I feel like Sote Pat is a little better, but head pat gets the whole idea across. Like, what should be the name of the emote? Okay, it looks like Sote Pat. Okay.
Holy Artist 95 cheered. X100. The emote should be named Chloe Pats.
Unfortunately, that is not our so all the emotes have to have like a standardized name. Okay, and then HPAT. I like no, not so Ted. Nope. No, haven't. That's not what we're gonna call it. I do like HPAT. And then this one is a confused emote. So should it be so fusion? We'll just do so. It's fine. It doesn't need to be easy to type. Whatever. These will also be coming to the Discord very, very soon. Okay, so now that we've done that, we need to fire some of the old emotes to make way for the new emotes. So some of the old emotes are going to be moving. Okay, we can move. We can move Galmaraz. And we can move. Damn. Okay, we can move high. We can move the Greet emote. Okay, cool. And then you go to tier 1. You go to tier 1. And you go to follower. Get in there. And you go to follower. Okay. There. All right. So it might take a second to update. But so if you are just a follower, so you don't even have to be a sub, you're going to have access to 2 new emotes. You'll have the 2 old emotes. You'll have the ban emote and the high emote. And then if you're a sub, there's going to be 2 new, there's actually 3 new emotes. We have a new blush emote. So we got rid of the demonette emote and we've brought in a Nakari emote for blush. So blush. And then we've got Sote Confuse, which is a Slan, and now we've got Sote Pat. Cool. I don't know how long those are going to take to activate. You might have to just like refresh your page. Yeah, there's the blush. The blush has been there. I just forgot to announce it last time. You might need to refresh your page, but it might just take a few minutes. So many emotes now. I know we're getting there. Okay. Let me get caught up on all the goodies. Okay, let's see. Mr. Schnellbomber, thanks so much for the 8 months of tier 1. Really appreciate that. Holy Artist, thank you so much for the 100 bits. I mean, at least we do have a Chloe emote. We do have that wonderful Chloe emote. Mazda Munted, I love that. Thanks for the 5 months. Croup Body Pillow, thank you for the 4 months of Prime. 4 months under the lore of Sotek. Hey, Croup Body Pillow, what do you think of the new Croup minis? I think they look really cool for, oh, there they are. Okay, the new emotes are active now. So yeah, now we've got Sote Pat. So we got a head pat emote. And we've got So Confused. We got the Confused Slan as well, which is great. Odin Egg. Oh my god, thank you for the 1500 bits, dude. Damn, that is super generous. Thank you very much, Odin Egg. Thank you so much. Inquisitor Hammond, yeah, I already heard your terrible joke. Thanks for the 100 bits. Gentlemander, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Welcome to the Red Host, my dude. Eckhard here, Thalion, thank you for the 16 months of tier 1. Empathetic Chaos, thank you very much for the tier 1. Hawk Oddly, thank you so much for the 23 months of Prime. Almost 2 years. Vote Lokir. Yeah, so in case y'all haven't heard, everyone, if you join our Discord community, okay, which you can do just doing !Discord. Also, if you're a sub, you should absolutely join our Discord community and make sure that your Discord account is linked to your 4K. Sorry, one second. No los dos. I just distracted myself being an idiot. Oh yeah, so if you join our Discord community, make sure to link your Twitch account and your Discord account, because that will give you access to a secret section of the Discord where only the highest society are allowed. They don't let in the dregs. I'm in there a lot, so you know, join up. In any event, we also have a vote going on that anybody can participate in. You don't have to be a sub or anything. But we have a community poll going on where people are voting for the legendary lords, or legendary lord they are the most excited for, essentially, in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, and whoever wins, I'm going to play that character. So we will get to that. Yeah, so like, because I'm gonna do like a whole 24-hour stream, potentially 24-hour stream the day before Immortal Empires comes out, which I'll be talking more about in the coming weeks. And whoever wins the vote, that's who I'm going to play on that day. Will I cosplay? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Whoever wins, I will find a way to cosplay as them, and I will also play them to completion. That will be the first campaign that I beat in Immortal Empires. So the voting is getting pretty intense. There's even people in the community poll discussion Discord who are starting to make alliances. There are many people who have lost their favorite characters, and so they are starting to join up with other people. Would I do Greenface? Yeah, sure. But I will say, as someone who has been looking at the vote polls, so far, Archaon, Grombrindal, and Be'lakor are in a very, very intense race. So the Grombrindal people in particular have been gathering in their throngs. So I said throng just to be clear, but they're going to be pretty hard to beat. So if you're not going to be on Team Grombrindal, you may need to watch out. Is it true they used my face for Valkia? No, that's not true at all. They used my horns. Yeah.
Banged _ porpoise cheered. X100. Team Belagar for life.
Team Belagar. Yeah. Hey Sotek, if the vampires were to vassalize a dwarf faction like Zufbar, could dwarfs be corrupted by the vampire corruption? I mean, if they're vassalized, I don't think they would spread it in that case. I think you'd have to have like a special bonus. Like we know that if Azazel confederates someone or vassalizes someone, if Azazel vassalizes someone, he forces them to spread Slaanesh corruption, even if they wouldn't normally. So I think you have to have like an ability like that to make them spread your corruption. Ferric TJ, thanks so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Also, before I get to the, you meant my small head. Get fucked, Hammond. You little bastard. I have a huge head. What are you talking about? You know how hard it is for me to find a hat that fits me well? Hey man, came here from YouTube, really like the hour-long lore videos. Am I gonna make any more of them? Yes, Ferric. I can confirm there is one that a lot of people want very badly that maybe you won't have to wait that long for. Maybe, possibly. Exclamation mark soon. Exclamation mark queek. Though actually the exclamation mark queek command is out of date. It needs to be updated because it's no longer correct.
Queequen?
Tinfoil hats? Yeah, you're actually gonna need those today. I've got mine in my secret compartment that y'all can't see here. So, you know, we are ready for things. Is the Empire Q&A still happening? No, not anytime, not anytime soon. Will it happen eventually? Yes. Is it going to happen right now? No. Way too much to do. And, yeah. Well, once things calm down a little bit, we'll get around to that. All right. So anyway, Grease is Cold Tooth OnlyFans. Thanks so much for the 7 months. Quick win when it happens, which will be soonish. Okay. Whew, let's get, one other thing. I'll go ahead and announce this. I don't have the specifics for you yet.
Neko12353 cheered. X200. I better get a lore explanation why we can't confederate warriors of chaos as Archaean.
We will talk about
frown.
we will talk about the Confederation thing. We're absolutely going to talk about that. Your Estalian soul has been crushed. Why is your Estalian soul been crushed? Necro, we will discuss that today. That is on the agenda, and I have a whole dedicated video to it as well. They said I was working on a chaos video. Yes, but it's not. Yes, but it's like a condensed version of some stuff. We're also going to be talking quite a bit about Slaanesh, either tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. Well, no, it's not going to be tomorrow. Hopefully I'll finish it by tomorrow, but I probably want it to have like slightly fancy editing, which means Brandon's got to do it. And there's just no way in hell I'm going to be able to finish it, record it, get it to Brandon, and have him edit it by tomorrow. That's just not going to happen. And that would not be fair to him to expect it. So that will get out hopefully like soonish, but I don't know. I might edit that myself and just make it really simple. That way I can get it out quick. Anyway, okay, let's go through all of the Hola Skinks, and we will then talk about a couple of other things. Oh, Bang Porpoise. Yeah, okay, I get you. If it makes you feel better, I would have probably deleted that one because it's not about the Empire. Unless it was about the Empire, but unless it was like specifically about the Empire, I probably would have deleted it. So with the Legionnaires, Centurion, Marshal, and Eternus, Be'lakor seems to have quite the force muster. Well, yeah, he should. Like, Be'lakor was worshipped as a god, even in fantasy. It makes sense that he would have kind of a pseudo-unique little group around him. All right. Let's do some Hola Skinks, and then I'm going to disable the Hola Skinks because I have realized now that we have so many people constantly kind of coming in and out that I can't just leave them on the entire stream. So basically, those are going to be on at the beginning. I'm going to answer them, then I'm going to turn them off. That'll happen every stream. All right. So, Hola Skinks, and welcome to the stream to Hawkgodly Wa. Actually, hold on. I can actually do this. Then I don't have to worry about running into people. Hawkgodly Wa Enjoyer, Random Guy 007, Afotep, Siegfried KKP, Fingolian, Arceus Star Destroyer, Ika Tauka, Captain Squishy 42, Elder Crolls, Tyronin, Jacoby 2799, CKT, Sam Dazzalot, Living Legend, Pentony, Quebec, Prime, Ravit Trotsky, Tim to Play, Ratwood 19, Shidaro, Goas Alice, CS00, Dino King 2001, Krizomi, Sunday Spoon, Super Eagle 1989, Chorus, The Malefactor, Grease's Goldtooth OnlyFans, Chili Lagarto, Schroeder 9000, Fit 16, Critical Mass 777, Vig's Vizier 707, Viper Code 619, Slurp 47, Holy Artist 95, Juggernaut 227, The Green Tide, Gaslight 88, Eantropy, Okie, Gnome Hat, Venerator 501st, Wardens, Grosgob, Order X, Ringer TT, Mix Aliv 12345. Oh, I always think, yeah, I'm at the end, and then I realize, nope, I'm at the end of the first page. Decol 86, Quintus 579, NT Pink, Banked Porpoise, Big Aggie 72, Hichel Werzer, I may have butchered that one. Banana Bean 03, Vigario Pro, Oilman TTV, Razor Dragon Tail, My Heroes BPB&J, Obicus, Azura's Blood, Papa Chaos 4296, Uzul Skull Taker, Necro 12353, Sithric, Jackshammer 0927, Mornington Crescent, Pokey Pineapple, The Peanut Monster, McQuibiff, Septim Harris, Blanket 1131, Just Fez, Ferric TJ, Clemmy the Great, Oneg, Inquisitor Hammond, Ninja 99, Portugalole, Count Azur 04, Scratch 1211, Rai Nishikin, Caleb Beats, Free Roll It, Free FE Rule 08. I'm sorry, I'm sure that's supposed to like fruit roll up. Solomonski, Almighty Stump, Toaster King, Sepifer, Windringar, V Gunte, Habu Dabu Habu. There we go. All right, am I caught up? I'm caught up. Okay, great. And then I'm going to tell it to pause those. Welcome to the stream, all of you. So wonderful to see you all. Hope you're having a great day. Appreciate your faces. And posture checks, thanks. Okay. Mr. Unique Name, thanks so much for the Prime sub. Jackhammer0927, thanks for the Prime sub. Welcome to the red host, you guys. Okay, speaking of subs, holy mother of hell, guys. So I genuinely cannot believe I'm about to say this out loud. Genuinely can't, because it's blown my mind and I am so deeply appreciative. But we've reached over 500 subs here on the Twitch channel. 500 subs, which goddamn. We also have over 11k followers, which is a huge threshold. And also YouTube is blowing up right now big time. So here's what I kind of want to do. I want to kind of give back to you guys as thanks for all the support. And like, while we're going to be doing kind of fun special things like special streams and stuff as embargoes allow, as we're getting close to Immortal Empires, and I'd also like to start doing some other stupid stuff. I do want to take opportunities to give back when I can, both here on YouTube, here on Twitch, I should say, and on YouTube. So I can't. Emphatic Chaos, thanks so much for the 5 gift subs. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. If you got a gift sub, be sure to thank him. So what I would like to do, I'm not sure exactly 100% what we're going to do just yet. Soccer More Warrior, thank you so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate that. What I think we're going to do is
equality.
Oh, well, thank you. Y'all are very sweet. What I think we're gonna do is some giveaways. So I'm thinking what I might do is swing by my local hobby store and pick up some models, maybe some really cool fantasy models, fantasy/AOS, and we'll give those away. And maybe I'll also pick up some of my favorite books that are like really good books to get into the series with. So maybe like Go Trek and Felix, First Omnibus, Black Hearts, stuff like that. And once we have those, we'll give away those as well. I think that could be super fun. So keep your ears out for that, and we will go from there. But I just wanted to take a minute to thank you all so much for the support. Things lately have been super crazy, super busy. I've been having an absolute blast, and it's been a huge honor to be able to just chat with you all. And I'd like to try and find ways to give back and not just be about myself. And of course, I will also see what I can do about maybe getting some keys for Total War Warhammer, you know, all 3 of the games, as well as some of the DLCs and stuff. I'll reach out to some people I know to see if I can get some goodies for y'all. Because that could be fun. Stream more than, yeah, we intend on doing that too. Where's our bikini? Wait, what? Well, hold on.
Cheered. X100. But Sotek, where is our bikini calendar with you on it? You promised.
Listen, y'all, you would not want a bikini Sotek calendar, because the way I am shaped, there would be no visible bikini. It would just be flesh that is concerningly pinched in certain areas. that would be all there is. And Bathwater, I don't think I could do that legally, because I don't think I could guarantee that you wouldn't do something regrettable with it, and then if you got sick and died, that'd be on me. So that's gonna be a no from me, dog. All right, but thank you, Holy Artist and Greases Go to. Thanks so much for the bits. All right, so I've got a couple of little questions that people have done lore fact redeems for, so let me knock those out real quick, and then we're gonna talk about some random stuff. So let's see. Solomonsky asked, which Lizardman character would make the best omelet? Solomonsky, are you asking me who would cook the best omelet, or are you asking me if you used a Lizardman legendary lord to make an omelet, who would be the best for that? Because, like, Lizardmen don't come from eggs, so I'm assuming you mean who would cook the best omelet. And it would have to be Mazda Mundi. Like, all that ancient wisdom, He literally knew the old ones. Surely there was an old one that was skilled in the kitchen and passed down their knowledge to the Slann. And like he could literally do everything telepathically while very slowly conversing with you. I mean, he would use magic to cheat. Obviously, he would make the best one, though it might be a little slow. But I'm sure once he settled on like the best omelet in the view of the great plan, he would make something pretty crazy. Either that or it would be Oxiodal, because Oxiodal would use some weird shit.
Spartan_elite cheered. X100. So you promised you would cosplay Who Wins the Poll. All of us on stream heard it. So what I'm hearing is you cosplay as Mama Marathi.
Well,
Sot bonk, sot bonk, sot bonk.
Hey, if you want me to, I'm not sure how I would do that, but I'm sure I could find a way. If you would want me to somehow try and do a Morathi cosplay, that's fine. But if you're gonna do that, she has to win the poll. So if she doesn't win the poll, then that's not on me. Oxiodal accidentally put some warpstone powder in the omelet. Yeah, totally accidentally. All right. Another thing here for whenever you're ready, no rush. Did Boris Ursus have a named character that was his arch nemesis? Yes, he did. Boris's, I wouldn't call him his arch nemesis per se, but there was a named character who was not like a super big character. But the man who killed him or was credited for killing him was Hetzar Fedaj, which Hetzar is a title, if I remember correctly, but Fedaj was his name. But he was a Chaos Lord. We see him reappear in the end times. He shows up in the source. He shows up in the short story during the end times called I think it's called like Blood on Snow or Blood on Ice and Snow, something like that. But it was a short story about the last stand of Kislev, because Hetzar Fedaj ends up leading this massive army against the last survivors of Kislev. Because after Kislev gets obliterated by Vardek Krom and Archaon's Vanguard, which Archaon's Vanguard was like in the hundreds of thousands, but after they basically wiped Kislev off the map, Hetzar Fedaj was determined to track down the survivors and wipe them out. He had a couple of special characters with him.
Okay, I want to know who is your favorite two-handed weapon user in lore. Mine is Grumbrindle.
My favorite two-handed weapon user? My favorite two-handed weapon. Oh, Chockox. Yeah. Chockox. Yep, that's easy for me. Chockox is far and away my favorite dual wield, or like a big two-handed character. But anyway, yeah, so Hetzar Fedaj. Fun fact, Ungrel Forehorn, a Beastman special character who is basically like an Ungol legendary lord / legendary hero type individual, but Ungrel Forehorn served under Hetzar Fedaj and served him during the final battle. How do you spell it? Hetzar is Hetzar and Fedaj is Feydaj. I probably mispronounced it, but that was my best attempt. What makes a man-eater and just not another ogre? A man-eater is specifically an ogre that wanders a lot, typically by themselves, and they adapt another culture into their own like fighting style. Oh, I said Ungol. I meant Ungor. Yes, sorry, Ungol, not Ungor, not Ungol. Jesus, talking about Kislev and Beastman in the same sentence is dangerous. Emotionless Magic and Ravania, thanks so much for the Prime subs. Welcome to the Red Host. Make sure y'all link your Twitch account to your Discord account, and be sure to join our Discord if you haven't already, so you can get access to the secret section, or the Red Host section, I should say. Lots of cool stuff going on there. In any event, moving on. Where was I? But yeah, so Hetzar Fedaj is the guy who was leading the army that killed Boris. And fun fact about Fedaj is he actually spent the rest of his life living in a horror movie, because despite being a powerful Chaos Lord, he was never, until the end times, he couldn't really rally an army to go up against Kislev again, because he spent the rest of his life, which was about 20 years, being hunted by Erskine. So Tsar Boris's bear, who is a basically a mortal incarnation of Urson, the bear god, was hunting him the entire time, just tracking his scent on the wind and killing everyone that got between Erskine and Fadaj. So he was running away from Erskine for decades before the end times, and even at the end times he was still terrified trying to get away from Erskine. And we finally see Erskine join up with the Kislevites showing up on the final battle, where he charges alongside Katerin. Katerin does not ride him into battle, but she fights alongside him, and they charge into the Chaos Horde at the end of the short story.
Burn Sigmar.
Burn Sigmar. Wow. Okay. New Tire, thanks so much for the 5 months. Those are some fighting words. But yeah, moving on. I got my hands on some totally not Total War Warhammer style minis of Grimgor and 3 Black Orc big bosses that I got to paint. What would be his faction colors? Grimgor,
Star Destroyer
pretty
X100.
heavily dark
How
colors.
Much would you want to be able to play a Naos game with you?
Typically, Grimgor's army pattern tends to be black armor with white and black checker patterns on certain elements of the armor, and like red highlights. And a lot of the times in the red highlights will be like, it'll kind of be in like a spike pattern. And he also tends to have like really grotesque faces, like orc faces, on shields and banners and belly plates and stuff like that. Froshi2, thanks so much for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate that. RCS Star Destroyer, how much would I want to be able... Wait, how much would you want to be able to play an AOS game with me? You do not have to bribe me to play AOS. You just gotta like catch me at a particular time. I intend to start playing AOS games again soon. I don't know if I'll stream it. I don't know if people would want to watch that or not. I mean, I could stream it. It might just be like kind of a chill stream. But I definitely want to get back into playing AOS soon. I'm just very, very busy right now. Can skinks be friends? Yes, absolutely. Skinks are much more capable of emotion than other lizardmen. Lizardmen are capable of emotion and having emotional relationships. They just, their relationships tend to be much more suppressed compared to warm-blooded creatures typically. Like, they have emotions, but the way that we feel emotions is rather foreign or alien to the way they feel emotions. But we know that they can feel that way, and there are lizardmen who are friends. Like some notable relationships we know about in the lore, for instance, is that like Tehenhauin was easily one of, if not the most emotional lizardman that's ever lived. I mean, Tehenhauin was a very emotional character who was very, very prone to giving like big speeches and was like a fiery orator and brought like, you know, that classic hellfire and fury to his grand speeches when he would address like giant crowds of lizardmen.
Destroyer cheered. X100. Trying to learn and would love to play with my favorite streamer.
Yeah, Arceus, that'd be a blast, dude. Like Tehenhauin, for instance, some like really staunch allies Tehenhauin had. Krokgar. Tehenhauin was actually very close to Krokgar. They had more of like a political alliance as opposed to a strict friendship. But Tehenhauin actually, in private conversations, managed to convince Krokgar to take up worship of Sotek, and the two of them developed enough of a political relationship that Tehenhauin would reliably call on Krokgar to come out for really special rituals and political executions. So Krokgar acted as this really notable political figure within Lustria to basically give Tehenhauin a lot more authority, or like kind of a show of authority, because Krokgar is basically the Warmaster of Lustria. He is considered the High General of Lustria. He's able to bring all of the other temple cities under his command, and is one of the very, very few old bloods that wields that level of authority. So when he, like, without instruction, like the Slann did not ask him to do it, and hell, they didn't even want him to do it. Kronkar allying up with Tehenhauin was a huge deal. And we know that Kronkar personally played a significant role in at least 100 of Tehenhauin's sacrificial rituals, where Kronkar would come out and decapitate some of the most notable prisoners that were taken alive from the Skaven. So yes, they do have those kind of relationships. Some other good options though, like Tehenhauin's actual friends, so to speak. The characters that were like noted to be in his personal circle were Paquinchi. Paquinchi was a standard bearer. He basically was like the banner guy for Tehenhauin. He carried Tehenhauin's personal standard much of the time, and he is also accredited with being a skink chief that created the Skaven pelt banner. So he basically skinned Skaven and used their pelts to create this nasty banner that he covered with Lizardman iconography, and it was often brought onto battlefields, and just like the sight and the smell of it would cause the Lizardmen to get into like this killer frenzy because they'd be so enraged by this thing. So it was used to great effectiveness on the battlefield, but Paquinchi was a very good ally of Tehenhauin's. When the character was originally introduced, Tehenhauin and Paquinchi, Paquinchi actually was originally the one who carried the plaque of Sotek for Tehenhauin. Tehenhauin very rarely carried it himself, but Paquinchi often had it for him, and Tehenhauin would be like leading rituals and stuff. But another character was Lodel of the Ruby Sanctum, who was also known as the Deliverer of the Ruby Sanctum. The Ruby Sanctum was a really important site for the Lizardmen in Lestria that nearly fell to Clan Pestilence during the War of the Rat and the Serpent. And when Tehenhauin heard that the Ruby Sanctum was under attack, he led his armies very quickly through the jungles to relieve the Ruby Sanctum from being destroyed. And he found there Lodel, who is heavily inspired / based on Lodel Bodel, which Lodel Bodel was one of the original Lizardmen special characters when the Lizardmen were originally introduced in 5th edition. It's actually very heavily implied that Lodel Bodel is the Deliverer of the Ruby Sanctum, and Lodel Bodel are the exact same guy because they're from the same city. But Lodel held the Sanctum by himself. Everybody else died. So when Tehenhauin showed up, he found the battle was already over, and all of the Lizardmen had been massacred except for Lodel, who was the only survivor, and he was basically just standing there exhausted after having slaughtered. He was literally surrounded by mounds of Skaven corpses, but he had delivered the Ruby Sanctum and saved it, though he was the only survivor. So Tehenhauin showed up and was like, "You are a badass, and you're blessed by my god. You're with me now." And Lodel was like, "All right." So he took over as one of the chief generals for Tehenhauin, and was like a very, very major ally of Lodel, or Tehenhauin. But some other like notable friendships that we hear about from time to time. Oh gosh, there were a couple of Slann that were fairly close to one another, though I'm not having any particular names show up in my head at this exact moment in time. Like, we know that Mazdamundi was a student of Lord Croak, and he was fond of Lord Croak, but Mazdamundi wasn't able to do anything to help him during the Siege of Itza, which I do think actually weighs on Mazdamundi a bit, even thousands of years later. Yeah, so anyway. Thank you so much, Pintany, for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate it. Also, Taldrazam, yeah, thank you all so very much for the subs. Appreciate that. Okay. Other than the time of Tomb King got British Museum by the Empire or the war with Norska, what is the funniest Tomb King shenanigan? Hold on. I know just the thing. Let's see, where is he? Hold on. I promise you will enjoy this. Just gotta find his page. You're about to hear about one of the angriest Tomb Kings there ever was. Where's his? There is a particularly hilarious note in here. Nope, not that one. Nope. I know it's in here. Nope. we go. And if I recall correctly, I think this might actually be, let's see. Yeah, okay. So I want y'all to appreciate this for two reasons. So for those unaware, there is a Tomb King in Dreadfleet. So Dreadfleet was a naval expansion for Warhammer Fantasy that inspired half of the Vampire Coast in Total War Warhammer 3. It's where we get RNS Assault Spite and Count Noctilus from, okay? But one of the captains in this book is a Tomb King captain by the name of Amenhotep the Intolerant. And Amenhotep is a bitchy Tomb King. He is one of the angriest motherfucking Tomb Kings that has ever lived. And you could tell based on his title being the Intolerant. He actually joined up with Count Noctilus's Dreadfleet because basically the other characters had pissed him off by stealing from him. And he was a king of Xandri. And he was notable for a temper. Because to be noted, the vast majority of Tomb Kings hate vampires. They hate vampires more than they hate anything else on the face of the planet, because to them, vampires represent Nagash. And they are all very, very pissed at Nagash because he ruined their resurrections. So for Amenhotep to be so angry at the living that he's willing to join up with the likes of Noctilus just to get one over on the living just shows how much of like a douche this guy is. But please enjoy the following story about something that happened to him once. Ahem. Amenhotep the Intolerant. So this is, for the record, this is hundreds of years before Dreadfleet takes place. Probably a good, if I had to guess, probably a good like 200 to 300 years before. During the time of the Desert Blood Crusades, a regiment of Bretonnian knights returned from Nehekhara with the remains of what they believed to be Duke Cheldric, a hero whose daring quest into the land of the dead was the stuff of legend. However, the knights had actually returned to the old world with the mummified body of King Amenhotep the Intolerant, who awakened after unknowingly being paraded up and down the length of Bretonnia and carried across a score of battlefields by zealous battle pilgrims as a Grail relic. Amenhotep's wrath was great indeed, and he single-handedly slaughtered the inhabitants of dozens of towns before returning to his sarcophagus in Xandri. I love Amenhotep. He's hilarious. He was a little upset. He was a little upset. Obakis. Hi Sotek, how are you? I'm good, thank you. I'm doing quite well. Which legendary lords can Gorok beat in a duel? Gorok would be very devastating to any characters that rely on chariots.
Greasus _ gold tooth _ of cheered. X100. So did he have a ship come pick him up, or did he have to hitchhike through the Badlands?
I'm pretty sure he walked. I'm pretty sure he just walked back. Hey, Randall Briggs, thanks so much for the 5 gift subs. Thank you very, very much for the 5 gift subs. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Grease's Go-To, thank you for the 100 bits. But yeah, any legendary lord that relies on a chariot would have a horrible time against Gorok. Because Gorok specializes in obliterating chariots. He basically turns himself into, like, you know those concrete poles that they install in like shopping centers to make it so that cars can't like crash and like accidentally hit people? They hit the pillar instead. That's what Gorok functionally operates as. And he's also very, very good against characters who rely on like killing by deaths of 1,000 cuts, or by like wearing down the tenacity of their opponent. So like Deathmaster Snitch would probably get absolutely bodied by Gorok. He would have a very hard time against Gorok. So assassin type characters who rely on kind of like nicking you a bunch, but they don't necessarily have very good armor piercing, and characters that rely on a horse or cavalry, they're gonna struggle. Because Gorok basically specializes in just like being this immovable object that you crash into and thinking, oh, like I could overwhelm him or I could knock him over. No, you can't. No, you cannot. He will body you. And characters that tend to rely much more on like nicking him a little bit, like cutting him with poison daggers or whatever. Gorok's just tough as nails. He just doesn't know how to die, and he doesn't seem to be able to feel pain. He seems like completely immune to pain. So he doesn't really care about like people trying to cripple him. He just kind of keeps fighting until he kills you. But he can be out juggernauted. There are characters like Ungrim Ironfist. I saw somebody mention Ungrim Ironfist could take down Gorok. Like he's used to taking down really big beefy monsters. He could handle them. But stuff like that. Okay. Spider Patches, thanks so much for the 14 months of Prime. Thank you. Welcome back. Good to see you. What makes the Tomb King so strong in the lore? Tomb Kings are the thing that makes them incredibly powerful is that the curses and all of the various rituals that went into binding their souls to their bodies to prevent them from their souls from like departing into the actual realm of chaos itself, and like normal souls do, and going through that typical degradation process, they are kept in their full power, and like everything about them is carefully maintained, and they just spent their lives in kind of this pocket, being the realm of souls, where they make their way back up to their body, and when they take over their bodies have been drenched in curses, rituals, and enchantments that make their bodies incredibly powerful. So you're dealing with an entity who, he's already dead, right? He doesn't feel pain in a traditional, most of them just don't feel pain at all. And he's very, very heavily fortified by magic. So the thing about Tomb Kings is that they are alarmingly more powerful than any human. Like a Tomb King is so powerful and fast, and like alarmingly so, that even vampires are like, ooh, like don't really want to deal with that. Vampires are terrified of Tomb Kings, and for good reason. They're a piece of work.
X150. Anything you can tell me about Imperator Lupio I Sunscryer?
Lupio's Sunscryer. Off the top of my head, Bang Porpoise, not off the very top of my head, but hold on. Let me see if I can find him in here, because if I can refresh my brain, that would help significantly. What page are you on, Lupio? Nope, I think I just saw him. Oh no, that's Lorenzo, not Lupio. Got Marco Colombo. Got Mercenaries. We got Midas the Mean. Lucrezia Belladonna. Leonardo de Marigliano. Borgio the Besieger. Rico. Del Monte. Vespero. Bjorg Bearstruck, Maximilian, Leopold, Arsenal, El Mukhtar, Perazzo, Goldfag, Boland, Drong. Yeah, no, I'd have to do some research. I forgot Lupio Sunscryer. Yep. I'll have to look him up later. I read somewhere that Kislev and Prague fell to Echoed Hellbrass. Is that true? So the city of, so in the end times, Echoed Hellbrass is one of the notable, he's not the only general, but he's a notable general who's involved in Archaon's vanguard. So basically he's kind of one of the big figures alongside like Vardek Krom. Who else showed up like really, really early in the fighting? God, I forget who else was out there, but there were a number of Warrior of Chaos characters and like legendary fighters and stuff who showed up in the end times, kind of in that little ballpark. They were kind of on the front lines, Echold Hellbrass was definitely involved in the fall of Kislev and the fall of Prague, but he was not leading it. I would say if anybody was leading the situation, like that just absolute clusterfuck of an army that wiped out Kislev, I would probably give more credit to Vardek Krom than anyone, or Krom the Conqueror. I would not say Echold Hellbrass as much. He was definitely there, and he was definitely busy, and he was doing a lot. But we don't really see what he was up to until Gotrek and Felix Felix runs into him. He actually doesn't even fight Gotrek. He just fights Felix. And Echold Hellbrass dies in a very bizarre way. He's basically killed by bad luck while he's trying to kill Felix. Which the irony of the situation is that Echold Hellbrass is basically like looking through destiny, and he's looking at Felix's destiny because he's literally ranting to Felix about all the potential futures that Felix has available to him, because Echold Hellbrass finds it very interesting. And while he's musing over the significant amount of possibilities of where Gotrek and Felix could end up during the apocalypse, it's kind of implied that he's so distracted while he's doing that and trying to kill Felix that he is just completely caught unawares when a bomb goes off under his feet, because there are dwarfs beneath him tunneling, and the dwarfs basically blow up a bomb and it kills him. It causes, I don't remember if a particular character stabs him. He might have been killed either by Felix or by Snorri Nosebiter, but basically there's an explosion and a structure falls on him. But he gets kind of a weird death. He's kind of just there. He just kind of shows up and dies. But anyway, let's see. Are blood dragons still the masters of combat and unrivaled in the sword? Among vampires, yes, blood dragons for the most part are unrivaled. I would definitely say there are some von Karsteins who could give them a fight, but they tend to be like the big bads. Unrivaled, like globally, no. Blood dragons are up there, but like it's a broad spectrum.
What would you want them to be like?
Like compared to the vast majority of people in the Warhammer world, yes, Blood Knights / Blood Dragons are undisputed masters of combat. But when you say like, are they the best of the best? When I focus in on that like top 1% of the spectrum, it's a huge spectrum, even at that tippy top 1%. I would definitely say they're up there, but there's a lot of very, very, very powerful, skilled combatants that are also in that pedigree. I would say blood dragons though are kind of in the same caliber as Chaos Knights / Chosen and like Grail Knights. So they're up there with the big boys, but are they like the absolute best? I don't know if I would say anyone is the absolute best. There's really not ever going to be enough evidence, I think, to point at one specific type of unit or character even and be like, this character is the best. Just because it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on like the situation. And when you're dealing with a situation like a blood dragon in particular or a vampire, vampires have very, very different powers depending on each individual vampire. We don't obviously focus on that from like a unit perspective. Like a unit of blood knights, we don't deal with that. Or like even like a vampire lord, we're probably not going to focus too much on it just because like you're dealing with whole armies and you don't have that level of like time and detail. But like from a lore perspective, if you're talking about an individual blood dragon, his powers are going to be wildly different from another blood dragon's. And his weaknesses will be very different from another blood dragon's. There are so many little nitty-gritty details that you have to deal with when you start focusing that closely. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind. But yeah. Let's see. How rich are the Dark Elves in the lore compared to the other races? Not very. The Dark Elves are a raiding focused culture, so while they do have wealth, their wealth is completely dependent on taking portions of wealth from other nations, and everything they build is built purely by slaves. And they have a very, very small empire with only a handful of cities and very, very few settlements or outposts outside of those cities. I would say the Dark Elves are not even in the top 5 economies in the world. Not even close. They have, if anything, they probably have one of the smallest economies among the like civilized races of Warhammer Fantasy. They're definitely like more wealthy than like Norscan or the Warriors of Chaos, generally speaking. But like the High Elves have more money, Dwarves have way more money, Empire's got more money, Bretonia's got more money, Ogre's got more money, Lizardmen got more money. Like, yeah, no, they're totally outclassed by most of the other like civilized, like establishing cities kinds of races. Okay. Let's see. Bastamate, thanks so much for the Prime sub. Asgardi, thanks for the Prime sub. And Lakodak, I will get to your thing here in just a bit. Chaos has an economy, theoretically. There are cities in the realm of chaos / chaos waste. They're more like fortresses, but you know, they're out there. Would I say they have merchants that travel from place to place? Probably not, but I'm sure there are individuals that like, you know, do things there. Okay, Lakadak, thank you so much for the 1,000 bits. Very generous of you. Appreciate that. If I could create my own legendary lore for Total War Warhammer 3, what would I want them to be like? If I could create my own legendary lord, I'm not really someone that tends to focus very much on the idea or concept of like creating something totally from scratch. I prefer to like dig around and find something that has not been adapted yet and adapt that. My current like number one character who I think is not guaranteed to get a slot that I would really want to see adapted into Total War Warhammer would be Muna Mim, which Muna Mim is a Famir matriarch character, or at least, okay, if I would pick a Famir matriarch. There, that's the answer. I would want to create a Famir legendary lord who is a very, very powerful wizard. I think Muna Mim from the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 4th Edition Winds of Magic expansion would make a very good baseline or foundation to build that potential character from. It doesn't have to be Muna Mim. I would just use her as kind of an example. And because I love the Famir. I think the Famir are super badass. My favorite races in Warhammer Fantasy tend to be the primordial races. So the races that are so ancient that like the elves were not even like a twinkle in the old one's eye yet. So like lizardmen, dragon ogres, Famir, presumably the Naga of Koresh, the fishmen. Like I just really like ancient, forgotten, terrifying races. I also really like reptiles. You know, all that I find very, very interesting. So for me, I would want a Famir matriarch. I would probably want to give her her own unique lore of magic. I would probably call it like the lore of Mist or the lore of the Mire or something like that. And I would want to like develop spells that focus very much around debuffs, maybe stealthing units through like heavy fog and like heavily penalizing enemy shooting attacks. So like making enemy shooting units lose line of sight, stuff like that, I think would be really, really cool. And like be able to summon like fog demons. So like a vortex spell where like creatures manifest in the fog and start killing people. That could be really cool. And of course she would have a lot of buffs for Famir units. And I would make her focus very heavily on monsters and Famir. And magic, because that I just think that would fill out Norska so nicely. Norska's got a lot of really cool Norscan components. I need more monster components. If it's gonna be the race where like the cultural creatures of chaos manifest, I want to see more of that. You know, give me the Famir noble as a generic lord who then has buffs for like trolls and monsters and Famir. And then, you know, just go from there. Edel Ed, thanks so much for the Prime sub. Really appreciate that. And Bastamate, I don't know if I thanked you, but thank you as well for the 4 months of Prime. Yeah, we do need Ettins. Cursed Ettins. Yeah, give me those cursed Ettins. Oh baby. Just rub it in there good. All right, let's get. What race has the worst / incorrect representation lore-wise in Total War Warhammer games? Which race has the worst representation? Ugh. That's tough. Most of them are pretty well represented. There are definitely some elements of some races that I really dislike. Probably Grathian, have a good night. Thanks so much for coming by. Probably I'm not a huge fan of the current way the Tomb Kings are, as far as Tomb Kings and Tomb Princes being able to ride horses. Hugely not okay. That is a massive fuck you to the lore, and that was a huge mistake on their part. Granted, it wasn't written in as obvious a spot as it probably should have been, but it is like a flat out stated fact that they would never ride on horses. So I really don't like that. I also really dislike that Tomb Kings don't have wizard generals. Dasher1392, thanks so much for the 5 gift subs. Dasher, thank you very, very much for the 5 gift subs. Like, not having Lich High Priests or like a Hierophant Lord, I think is really, really dumb for Tomb Kings. Like, generally speaking, from a lore perspective, Tomb Kings have to have a wizard in their armies. They have to have a wizard, because the wizard is the one animating the army. Tomb Kings, with the exception of Cetra, cannot animate their own legions. They have to have a Lich Priest with them. So, like, the whole idea that you have, like, a Tomb King Lord, and that's your only Lord choice, like, that really rubs me the wrong way. I would much prefer... I would have preferred that we got like Lich High Priest Lords and then Tomb King Lords later, but like I don't mind the Tomb King Lord for the sake of like playability. But like the fact that we just don't have Lich High Priests, I think is super dumb. Archon could do it too. Well, Archon's not a Tomb King. He's more on the Wizard Priest side of things. And Kotep just is a priest. So I'm talking about, like, when I say Tomb Kings, I mean like the character type Tomb King, not Tomb Kings and all Tomb King Lords, but like the actual Tomb King. But yeah, give us those Lich High Priests. And also, I want our damn banner guys, the Tomb Heralds. The Tomb Heralds are the third hero type for the Tomb Kings, and right now they've been relegated to just being followers that are locked in your tech tree, and I dislike that. I dislike that very much. I would vastly prefer that the Tomb Heralds be a unit type that actually have really cool looking banners, and they function much more about buffing your units and getting the most out of your units' combat prowess, as well as like sniping enemy characters in challenges and stuff. That would be super cool. Like, does every single faction in Total War Warhammer need banner carriers? Yes. Are we going to get that? No. Are there some factions that have significantly more important banner carriers than others? Also, yes. Tomb Kings being one of them. Like, Tomb Kings are one of the only armies that have a battle standard bearer character. Like, most armies, you would take a fighting character and you give them a banner upgrade so they can carry a banner. But not the Tomb Kings. The Tomb Kings just have a dedicated character who can carry a banner. So I think he should be in the game. Dasher1392, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. Again, thank you very, very much. Is there a lore reason why the Empire and Bretonnia don't have their own unique lores of magic? Yes, they're humans. And generally speaking, humans do not invent their own lores of magic unless there is a god involved or a creature of higher level. And for Bretonnia, their opportunities to do that basically got co-opted by the Lady of the Lake, and the Lady of the Lake taught her damsels magic that she felt was appropriate. And actually, a better explanation would be the Empire and Bretonnia both draw their magic back to the elves. So both of them learned their concept of magic, what magic should be, how to wield it, through the elves. The Empire learned their magic from Teclis and the High Elves, whereas the Bretonnian damsels learned their magic from the Lady of the Lake, who is in fact Lilith, who is a goddess of the elves, and you could kind of think of it as the Wood Elves taught them magic. So the elves have a very, very particular way of looking at magic, and the elves really don't like those like weird lores that humans and greenskins and all that stuff tend to come up with, because those lores, generally speaking, are lores of magic that are created by using like a deity to channel the magic. And so that's very heavily suppressed and looked at as like a bad thing within those cultures, because they learned a very particular form of magic from the elves. And the elves told them, you're only capable of learning X amount of lores of magic, being 8. And Bretonia, not even that many. You know, the Lady of the Lake was like, okay, Bretonia, I'm going to teach you the lores of your land. I'm going to teach you how to use the land itself as a weapon. And by doing that, she taught them the lore of life, beasts, and heavens, representing essentially, you know, the fauna, the flora, and the skies, the weather. But it's basically the land of Bretonia fighting back, and leans very heavily into that Lady of the Lakeness. Whereas the Empire was taught from a very academic perspective. These are the winds of magic. They split naturally into 8 colors. And Tekla said, I will teach you how to control these 8 colors, because no human can learn to control 2 colors without dire ramifications. And the Empire was like, cool. And so they view that as fact. However, if you want to get technical, warrior priests are using magic to manifest prayers. And prayers and magic are very, very similar things. There are some very particular differences between them, but the reality warping caused by magic is very similar to the reality warping caused by prayers, also known as miracles. So like whenever a warrior priest is manifesting a miracle of Sigmar, he's basically just casting a spell from the lore of Sigmar. It's just the way that he utilizes magic. The winds of magic is very, very particular and does not function like a wizard functions. But like, for instance, the lore of Nehekara used to not really be a thing. Back when the Tomb Kings were in 6th edition, the lore of Nehekara was prayers. So it was exactly like the warrior priests of Sigmar are in Total War Warhammer 3. That's how a Lich Priest used to work, is that they would manifest prayers. They didn't cast spells. Meanwhile, but when they showed up in 8th edition, an adjustment was made to give them access to the actual lore of magic, being the lore of Nehekara, and they kind of fiddled around with it, the lore a bit, to explain that the Tomb Kings came to it through like a different method. Which honestly to me makes more sense, because the Tomb Kings using prayers in the old school sense only made sense from the idea of like, yes, they're utilizing their gods, but like orcs utilize their gods to cast magic, chaos utilizes their gods to cast magic. So like really, in a culture that does not have a difference between prayers and magic, they should lean on the magic side of things, because they don't have a concept of the difference. Whereas in the Empire, they do have a concept of the difference. They have a very academic perspective on magic. So priests would not be able to just use magic and get away with it, because it would be heretical. It would be seen as like this violation of the way magic is properly supposed to be used. So the priests in the Empire have to use kind of a different method in order to manifest their miracles. So there is actually like a notable delineation between those two groups, if that makes sense. Has there ever been a case of Bretonia attempting to invade the Empire? Yes, happens a lot, actually. Bretonia and the Empire have had many border skirmishes, because there are a good number of Bretonian dukes who wish to expand their borders into the Empire, and vice versa. There are elector counts who would very much like to expand into Bretonia, and there has been many fights over the last thousands of years. There have been times where Bretonia has been much more in control of the passes through the Grey Mountains, and they've owned bits and pieces of territory on the Empire side of the Grey Mountains, and vice versa. Often the fighting will get uglier and uglier and uglier until it threatens to break into all-out war, and then usually the King of Bretonia and the Emperor of the Empire will usually step in at that point and be like, hey, y'all need to chill the fuck out. Oh yeah, the music turned off, didn't it? Thank you. So generally speaking, yes, they have fought a lot. There hasn't been really any attempts at full-scale invasions. Probably the biggest exception to that would be that the Bretonnian Duke of, oh god, what kingdom was it? I think it was Paravon. Yeah, I think if I recall correctly, the Bretonnian Duke of Paravon got pissed once when he was visiting the Empire. Marius Leitdorf very unflatteringly basically compared the Duke's wife's appearance to that. I think he compared her to like a cow or a horse, but he basically called her like, oh, it was Baston. Okay. He called her super fucking ugly, like to the Duke's face and to her face. And the Duke was so pissed about it that he went home, gathered his armies, and attacked Averland. And he actually fought his way to the capital of Averland because he wanted to kill Elector Count Marius Leitdorf, but Leitdorf just hid in the Averberg and waited for him. And when the Duke got there and like charged to lay siege, Marius Leitdorf just opened fire with his massive amount of Hellblaster volley guns and cannons, and the Bretonnians were completely and utterly annihilated. It was a completely one-sided slaughter. Because Marius Leitdorf is also is the most paranoid of the Empire characters, and his capital, the Averberg, Marius Leitdorf was convinced the apocalypse was coming, which he was right, but he was completely convinced. And he actually invested very, very heavily into, he invested very heavily into its defenses to a genuinely insane degree. Yeah, he was a doomsday prepper. Okay, Dragon Legend X. In the lore, who I consider the strongest spellcaster? Lord Croak alive, Nagash, Kairos, another creature. Lord Croak alive. Lord Croak alive is by and far the most powerful caster that's ever lived. Lord Croak is the only character we've ever had any evidence of who was such a powerful spellcaster that he was able to literally threaten the fabric of reality itself, where like the concept of time stopped functioning. Basically time itself kind of started to collapse. Reality itself was collapsing under the weight of the spells he was unleashing, and like time literally just stopped for a little bit while he was completing his spells. Croak is much more of a god than he was anything else when he was alive. Is the ancient blood book canon about Ushoran? I don't. Yes, but to what level is very unclear. It is a strange book, but it's also a very old book. I don't know how much Games Workshop considers it to be fully canon, as they did not end up exploring the ramifications of Ushoran's return. I do think that it's plausible that Ushoran survived the fall of Morcaine, but his mind was essentially shattered by the experience. However, I will say that I'm not exactly clear how he would have survived losing the crown of Nagash and I forget what his name is, but there was a necromancer in Morcaine that took the crown of Nagash and fled north after Ushoran's death. So it's not exactly clear how all the events would have panned out. I think the fall of Morcaine story tells better with Ushoran dying, but Ancient Blood does exist. So I would say that it is canon that Ushoran is still alive, and has very, very recently returned to sanity. Is he going to do anything with that information? I don't know. We could see Ushoran appear in Total War Warhammer 3. I would not be against it. I would rather have Vorag Bloodytooth because Vorag was the first Ghoul King, and I feel that the first Ghoul King is a more accurate representation of what the Strigoi are now than Ushoran. Ushoran kind of represents like the old school Strigoi before they devolved into their current form, but that's totally debatable. Someone who's like, nah, fuck that, like he's the head of the bloodline, he should return and be their legendary lord, that's just as valid. Favorite moment that displays a Necrarch's magical prowess? Ooh, gosh. I mean, probably my favorite thing that just shows off how insane the Necrarchs are and like how amazingly skilled they are is just the amount of new forms of undead they created. So like take the Hex Wraiths, for instance, right? The Hex Wraiths were a natural phenomena originally. So there is a date in the Warhammer calendar called Hexensnacht, which is kind of a parallel night to Geheimnisnacht, which is or Geheimnisnacht, I don't know exactly how you pronounce it, but it's a very, very magically charged day of the year that has to do with the lunar cycle involving Morslib and Manslib. But the Hex Wraiths originally were not evil spirits. They were actually spirits of vengeance, but you could argue that they were more spirits of violent justice. And what they would do is, come Hexensnacht, those who had committed great sins, those who were marked as murderers, rapists, whatever you want to, just all sorts of truly the most horrible of the horrible, were on that day would essentially be marked by the Hex Wraiths. And the Hex Wraiths would come out of whatever place they spawn from, some kind of underworld that people seem to collectively believe in, and they manifested into reality, and they would chase these people down. So these horrible people who had committed these terrible sins would suddenly find themselves being stalked through the night by these blazing, greenish, glowing spirits who would be cackling and screaming, chasing after them to decapitate them with their sides. And these things were ghosts, so they could not be stopped. There was no physical force that could stop them. The only way these individuals would be able to survive is if they managed to keep fleeing until daybreak, or if they had some kind of magical means or like silver blades or something to fight back with. So that was the natural order of things. However, the Necrarchs noticed this natural phenomena. Firster, thanks so much for the Prime sub. The Necrarchs noticed this magical phenomena and decided to co-opt it because they saw how devastatingly powerful the Hex Wraiths were. They were basically these unstoppable hunter spirits that caused immense terror and suffering to those that they were pursuing. And the Necrarchs thought that, this would be like a brilliant creature to understand and control, and it's a spirit, so I bet we can. And so the Necrarchs discovered a way to forcibly take over this natural phenomena of death and undeath, and they ripped the Hex Wraiths out of their natural ritual of Hexensnacht and bound them to the control of vampires. And they basically wrote treatises on how to use necromancy or the lore of vampires in order to do so. And that wisdom ended up somehow spreading to other vampires and even necromancers who learned to wield that power for themselves. So whenever you see units of Hex Wraiths on the battlefield, you're literally looking at some sort of they don't seem to be true undead in the sense that they were mortals who have died. If they are, then they're only very particular fragments of people who went to a very particular place within the afterlife, so to speak, being the ether. And these entities were ripped from their natural cause and effect, their natural place in the universe, and have been forced into labor as shock troops. But they don't seem to care that much. They only really seem to, they don't seem to be that sentient. They basically just thrill in the hunt. But you know, they're unleashed in a very unnatural way, because what are vampires if not incredibly unnatural? Has there ever been an example of a functional chaos society? Something like a human equivalent to the Chaos Dwarfs? I mean, there are chaos fortresses that exist, and Norska has a lot of settlements. They aren't like metropolises or anything. I'd struggle to even call them cities, but they manage a civilization. They have a concept of trade. Many of them travel the world and are like relatively friendly. They make great mercenaries. They enjoy being pit fighters for entertainment and coin. A lot of them join up with bands of heroes and even fight against the dark powers. So I mean, I would say Norska But we know in the far north there are fortresses that exist that are ruled over by terrifying lords of chaos that are pseudo-functional cities. However, it's likely that they don't depend a lot on like the things that we would think. Like they don't have farms, they don't have typical resources. They rely on much more weird stuff because it's the realm of chaos. But are there any like full-on chaos societies that are human? Not that still exist. It's implied that there have been human cultures that worship chaos that existed, but if they did exist, they only were able to really take up power in the old world, and they were wiped out during the essentially the cleansing wars unleashed by the Hyles and the dwarfs after the Great Cataclysm ended. Don't know if this got answered yet, but would it be possible to do some community Mortal Empire campaigns in the future? Yeah, absolutely. Can I get some facts about the blood waifu Valkia? Yeah, Valkia's like saga of how she went from being a powerful chaos lord to Khorne's absolute favorite waifu was to TLDR it. Basically, Valkia got catcalled and she murdered the shit out of the demon prince that catcalled her. The end. Hey, Variant voiceover, what's up? People in chat, I don't know if y'all watched the Nature of the Souls video I put out. If you haven't already, I'd really recommend checking out !souls for a command for a hot link to it. But Variant voiceover is the guy who voiced the Mad Scholar and Manfred von Karstein in the video, and we'll also be doing some future voice projects hopefully in the near future. So if you haven't already, you should check out his YouTube channel. I would bet money he will get to voice a character at some point, because I know CA really likes to pick up community voice actors if they can, because that's how we got Throth the Unclean. Fun fact. So yeah, make sure to check out his YouTube channel if you haven't already. It's under the exact same name. You can literally just copy paste his name in YouTube. Is there anything else we have to do after connecting our Twitch to Discord? Nope, that's it. You should be able to see the Red Host channels in the Discord. But yeah, Valkia just murdered the shit out of somebody that catcalled her. No, he did not voice Throth, but Voice Snacks did. And Voice Snacks was also a YouTuber who just made community voice clips, and he impressed CA enough that they hired him to do Throth the Unclean. And I think something similar could happen to Varing voiceover because he's that good. Will we ever get a new faction that isn't in the lore? I mean, we got Norska, which was not a standalone faction by any means of the imagination. We also got Grand Cathay, which technically existed, but we didn't have any lore on them. And we also got, we have mono gods as a concept, which was not really a thing. It depends on how you look at it, but I would say it wasn't really a thing. Hell, we've even, the biggest race I would expect to see, every race that you would ever see exists in some fashion in the lore. I don't think you would ever see a race that like has never been mentioned whatsoever. But yeah, Valkia killed her catcaller, who was a demon prince of Slaanesh, that told Valkia that she would be much more suited being his sex slave than she would being a warrior queen, and she did not take kindly to that. And she chopped his head off after a 3-day battle. You don't see the red host? Random guy, send me a ping on Discord and I will take care of you after the stream if it's not working very well. I can kind of force it to work. Another fun lore. Oh, here's another quote-unquote fun lore fact about Valkia. She murdered both of her own daughters. Valkia actually had 2 little girls. I can't remember if they were, I believe they were twins, but she had 2 daughters. One of them ended up following her footsteps and being kind of like a really powerful war leader. The other one followed a more traditional role, but Valkia ends up killing both of them. Does Teclis know how to do dark magic? Does he know how to do dark magic? Yes, he just chooses not to wield it because he sees it A, is weaker than high magic, and B, as a kind of a profane art and a crutch, and he also knows the price that it comes for. Why did she murder them? Basically, when Valkia took her role as the consort of Khorne, as the Blood Maiden, the herald of the Blood God. She basically she removed all of her mortal attachments, and you can kind of think of it as Khorne kind of tested her, and sent her kind of home to see what she would do. And to Valkia, all that mattered was her allegiance to Khorne. So seeing her children to her were nothing more than skulls to be offered, and that's what she did. Valkia doesn't give a shit about family, or honor, or any of those other concepts. Valkia only cares about pleasing Khorne. Will I play the Nagash mod? Maybe if I have some time. Living Legend, you want a Tehenhauin story. Okay, we will do that in just a sec, my dude, because I'm almost caught up on lore facts somehow. The strongest melee powerhouse lord in Age of Sigmar versus fantasy melee powerhouse and powerful caster in AOS versus fantasy. The strongest melee powerhouse in Age of Sigmar is probably Archaon, versus the strongest fantasy melee powerhouse would probably be like Tyrion with the Sword of Cain. AOS, I'm just gonna make this easy. The strongest thing in AOS of any subject, it doesn't matter what the subject is, any subject versus the strongest thing in fantasy of that same suspect, AOS wins every single time. Not even a contest. AOS is just a much higher power scale than fantasy is. AOS is cosmic scale. You are dealing with cosmic fantasy. So you are dealing with like, everything is just way fucking bigger. And the exact same characters that show up in both universes, their AOS version is always stronger. What do High Elves and Lizardmen think about each other? The Lizardmen see the High Elves as one of the only species created by the Old Ones who are still sticking relatively close to following the Great Plan and actually carrying out their intended purpose. So the Lizardmen are quite fond of the High Elves. Obviously, the Lizardmen don't tend to think of them very emotionally. They tend to think of them only in a very practical sense from the lens of the Great Plan, which can be very confusing to the High Elves. But the Lizardmen see them as very strong allies in the war against chaos. Like, the Lizardmen have defended the High Elves a couple of times. Like, if the High Elves are having a lot of struggles, the Lizardmen will usually show up if it's nearby Lustria. They've defended the oh god, what's the tower? I think it's the Tower of the Stars. That's on the southern coast of Lustria. It's either the Tower of Dusk or the Tower of the Stars. But that High Elf settlement has been saved by the Lizardmen a few times. But the Lizardmen have also like reinforced the vortex on many occasions. The Slann are constantly tinkering with it and making small, minute adjustments because as cool as the elves are, their casting of the vortex was like, Kalador Dragon Tamer is amazing, but from a Slann's perspective, Kalador's ritual was very messy. It was kind of like an amateurish take on that ritual. The Slann never would have thought of it, but they kind of looked at it and were like, this could be better. So they've been like tweaking it and making it stronger over the years. The High Elves, for their perspective, are very scared of the Lizardmen, respectfully. Like, they see the Lizardmen as the ancients. Some of them think of them as the lost children of the Old Ones, so they kind of see them as this race that worships beings that are now gone and dead, and they're completely disconnected from what's actually going on in the world, and they have a very alien perspective on things. And the High Elves, of all the races that exist in Warhammer Fantasy, the High Elves are the closest to understanding the Lizardmen. They understand what the Old Ones are. They know what they know some of the Old Ones because they have like some mentioned records about them and stuff. And the High Elves are much more keenly aware of what the Lizardmen are doing, and they understand that the Lizardmen 9 times out of 10 should be left alone. And that whatever they're doing, they know what they're doing, or at least they have a good reason to be doing it, and it's far better to just leave them to it. There's a reason that the High Elves always build their towers around Lustria and the Southlands on an island just off the coast. They never build on the mainland. And the reason the High Elves don't do that is because the Phoenix King declared an edict that the High Elves are never to step foot within the jungles of Lustria and the Southlands because they don't want to anger the Lizardmen. And they find it's far better to just leave them to it, and let them do what they're doing and just support them where they can. What's a wholesome lore fact on Malekith? A wholesome lore fact on Malekith is that Malekith was married a long time ago. He was married to his wife, oh god, Alisara, I think, who, fun fact, is actually the sister of Ariel, the Queen in the Woods of the Wood Elves, her mortal sister, not like Aisha's sister. And Malekith genuinely loved his wife. He deeply, deeply loved his wife. He loved his wife literally so much that when she learned what he had turned into, like he had turned into the Witch King and everything, she eventually decided that she wanted to go back to him, because she always loved him as well, but it's complicated. She knew what he was going to turn into because she saw a prophecy about it, and instead of trying to prevent the prophecy, she instead fled away because she got scared, and she saw Malekith's future as the Witch King and did not see herself as a part of it, so she ran away from her marriage and ended up fleeing to what would become Athel Loren. She also heard the call of the forest because Athel Loren was calling her to it to become a wood elf. But she eventually decided to go back to him, and Malekith loved her so dearly that when he learned that she was still alive, Malekith unleashed like a whole secret spy mission to have her safely delivered to him in Nagarond. And basically it's very heavily implied that while Malekith's heart is like cruel and black and full of malice, he still had a very big soft spot for his wife. And if she had been able to make her way back to him, it's very likely that she would have been able to thaw him out a little bit, and the Dark Elves might have been turned into something different. However, Morathi finds out that she survived as well, and Morathi, being a typical mother-in-law, or a stereotypical mother-in-law, I should say, organizes to get her assassinated, and it's a whole thing that happens. And when Malekith finds out, he gets super fucking pissed about it. He doesn't move directly against his mother, but he does abandon her to die when Ariel and Orion come knocking. But yeah, he did genuinely love his wife. Does the DLC technically give us 2 Slaanesh demon princes? No, because there is no other Slaanesh demon prince that's like purely a Slaanesh demon prince. The DLC, like, you can make Daniel a Slaanesh demon prince if you want to, in which case, if you have Azazel, then you would have 2. And we also know now that you can upgrade a Chaos Lord or a Chaos Sorcerer Lord into a demon prince of Slaanesh. So that would give you 2. But Sigvald is not a demon prince. Sigvald's just a mortal champion. Are demon princes respected by other demons of their respective gods? It depends. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. A lot of the time when you're dealing with demons on like the same power level, they hate each other because they see one another as rivals. They very, very rarely respect or like one another. Will this come up on YouTube? Yes. It'll even be time-stamped because I hate myself. Ghostfix, Ghost VPX, thanks you so much for the Prime sub. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, lore story time. So someone did the epic lore redeem. And if you're like, what the hell is a lore redeem? A lore redeem is basically, or a lore story, I should say, not a lore question, but a lore story. It's a much more expensive redeem for channel points, but it means I actually will read a full story instead of just a, like, answer a simple question. And Living Legend specifically requested to hear about Tehenhauin. So, I'm going to read you all some juicy Tehenhauin lore. Is Sartorial coming back? I know Sartorial is in Total War Warhammer 3 because he shows up in the Warriors of Chaos Lord recruitment. So he's there. All right.
Another wretched foul-lizard thing joins the Red Host. Cursed Sotek spawn.
Kaji Kantu, thanks so much for the 6 months of Prime. All right, where's the page I'm looking for here? All right. Here we go. Let me tell you some cool things about Tehenhauin. Mute the notifications for the lore read. Yeah, I guess we can do that. Oh god. There we are. Mute. All right. Let's talk about some cool things. The Rise of Sotek, featuring Tehenhauin. Let's see. Where's the best way to start this? Extract from the Prophecy of Sotek. At the time of the 300th circle of this world, the two moons shall unite and summon forth the rodent god and his evil spawn to deliver plague and pestilence upon the land named Lustria. One of the most significant events in the history of the Lizardmen is the rise of the cult of the serpent god Sotek. Traditionally, the gods of the Lizardmen were, and still are, the Old Ones, such as shadowy entities as Tlaxcotl, Chotek, Quaddle, Zunki, Shapati, Huanchi, and the inscrutable Tepok. Sotek was a new god, an upstart god, the god of the Skinks. Now Sotek reigns as the great god of the Lizardmen, eclipsing even the shadowy Old Ones. I promise this part will get to Tehenhauin, it's going to take a second. All of the Slann who knew of the Old Ones when they dwelt upon the earth are now dead. Although the younger Slann were spawned at the time of the Old Ones, before the Great Catastrophe, they never actually saw the Old Ones. The Slann of the first spawning acted as intermediaries. They were the only Slann wise enough and mighty enough to be permitted into the presence of the Old Ones. All lesser Slann faithfully and unquestionably worshipped and obeyed the Old Ones, as though they were living gods, but had no idea what they actually looked like. They represented them with various carved images, totems, and idols, derived from the hearsay and imagination of the mage priests. As far as lesser mage priests and the mass of the Lizardmen were concerned, the Old Ones were indeed gods. When the Old Ones perished, so too did the Slann of the first spawning. The Slann who remained continued to venerate the Old Ones as gods. The last of the first spawn Slann had inscribed the great world plan of the Old Ones onto sacred plaques of gold before they themselves perished. These plaques were copied by the remaining Slann, and recensions of the sacred were created in all the... Oh, there we go. And... Jesus Christ. Remaining Slann, and recensions of the sacred plan were created in all the temple cities. It is not certain whether all the copies were faithful in every detail to the master copy, half of which has now vanished through the predations of plundering invaders. For this reason, every sacred plaque is precious to the mage priest, because it may reveal unknown details of the divine plan of the Old Ones. The mage priest will go to any lengths to retrieve sacred plaques which are plundered from their temples. For countless centuries, the prophecy of Sotek was an obscure detail from only one plaque, which was kept in the Great Pyramid Temple of Chakwa. Only the mage priests of this city knew about it, and never pondered its meaning for very long, in case the other mage priests should read their thoughts and demand that it be rendered up to them, or worse still, demand that it be purged as corrupt. The mage priests of Chakwa believed that this prophecy was the true words of the Old Ones, but since it was to be fulfilled in the distant future, like so many of the other interventions of the Old Ones, they did not concern themselves with it before the appointed time. The prophecy of Sotek not only predicted the collapse of the warp gates, but also the cataclysmic invasion of Lustria by the Skaven. As the Skaven were not part of the Old One's sacred and enlightened plan, they are treated as enemies by all those who follow the Old Ones. This cataclysm had to be endured. It would come, it would rage for many centuries, and in due course, it would pass. The prophecy predicted the ruin of many cities, including Chakwa, and the spreading of a great and terrible plague. The time of the rodent spawn would eventually be brought to an end when the mighty serpent Sotek would appear. Sotek was destined to prevail over the rodent spawn, and would be heralded by the appearance in the sky of the forked tongue of the serpent. The mage priests of Chakwa considered Sotek to be none other than one of the Old Ones, who would return to save his faithful servants from the dire peril that beset them. It was not until rumors of a virulent pestilence arrived in Chakwa that the prophecy of Sotek was scrutinized by the mage priests. This took a long time, and in the meanwhile, many of the skinks in the city began to sicken and die. Finally, the mage priest proclaimed the prophecy to the population and dispatched a warband of skinks to find and attack the rodent stronghold and bring back captives for sacrifice. The mage priests had made up their minds to invoke Sotek in an awesome ritual. They hoped to attract the god with the smoking stench of the rat servants of his arch-enemy, the rat god. Few of the skinks returned, but those who did had not returned empty-handed. Unfortunately, their captives brought the plague into the city with them. The Skaven chiefs were duly sacrificed upon the new altar of Sotek, and the god was invoked. Within weeks, the city was devastated by pestilence. The mage priests perished, and their sorest bodyguards took their remains into the crypts and sealed up the passages from within, determined to defend their masters to the bitter end. While this was going on, a new sight appeared in the sky, a comet with a two-tailed shape like the tongue of an enormous serpent. The last mage priest left alive to Chakwa witnessed its coming through rheumy, pus-weeping eyes before being sealed forever within his temple. He attempted to communicate the prophecy to his peers, but his body was racked by plague and his prodigious mind gripped by fever, and his message was garbled and incomprehensible to his fellows. This sign was viewed with awe and consternation in all the Lizardman cities, but try as they might, none of the Slann mage priests could interpret the omen. It was not predicted in the glyphs on any of their sacred plaques. Only in the plaque of Chakwa was this event predicted, and its meaning made clear. The Slann of Chakwa were dead, and none of the Slann mage priests in the other cities were even aware of the existence of such a prophecy. The surviving skinks of Chakwa were left leaderless. The skinks of that generation were red-crested, and greatest among them was Tehenhauin. He proclaimed himself to be the prophet of Sotek, and rallied the other skinks to him. Tehenhauin declared that the sign of Sotek had appeared in the sky as predicted by the sacred plaque of Chakwa. The sacred plaque of the prophecy was placed in a reliquary, and taking this with them, the entire population of red-crested skinks deserted Chakwa and migrated ahead of the plague. Wherever the Red Crest went, they proclaimed the prophecy of Sotek and urged the sacrifice of rat spawn to invoke the god. All skinks were swayed by this new cult, especially as it was the skinks who were the main victims of the Skaven plagues. Tehenhauin and the Red Crests proliferated the cult of Sotek, leading armies against the Skaven wherever they found them. This was a period of total war spanning the entire continent, with beleaguered Lizardman cities being delivered by the prophet and his disciples, the Red Crests. The prophecy demanded that the rat spawn be sacrificed in prodigious numbers in order to bring Sotek to his full power. But with the mage priests having forbidden the bringing of sacrificial victims into the great altar ziggurats of the temple cities, the power of Sotek went unrealized for many centuries, while the mage priests contemplated and the skinks, particularly prone to the virulent plagues, died. As for the mage priests of the other temple cities, they viewed the prophecy with disdain and ignored it, despite the heavenly portent. Their forbidding of the bringing of rat captives into their temple cities for sacrifice for fear of plague frustrated the skink followers of Sotek, who were, at great cost and suffering, succeeding in capturing Skaven chiefs in skirmishes and raids. It was not long before skinks began conducting their own rituals to invoke Sotek among the ruins of their stricken cities. Sotek heard their invocations, although it took many more years of sacrifice to build up his power. Although the coming of Sotek was foretold, and the moment to his coming was heralded by the comet, it was still necessary for his followers to make him as strong as possible for when he was due to appear. The appearance of Sotek was hinted at in the prophecy and by the comet. He was a mighty serpent, the swallower of all rodent kind, a serpent of such awesome size and appetite that he could swallow the rat god himself and spend 1,000 years digesting him. The rodent god would be crushed within his coils. So said the prophecy. In time, the prophet of Sotek gathered a mighty army composed predominantly of skinks and set a cunning trap for the rat spawn at the Guacamole crater. The battle raged for days, but the lizardmen eventually defeated their foe, though at great loss, ensuring many thousands of rat spawn were captured. These they sacrificed deep in the jungle, far from any temple city, upon the crumbling ruins of a sacrificial altar to a long-lost and forgotten lizardman god. Tehenhauin led many thousands of his followers in a potent ceremony, a ritual of summoning, and it is said that the mighty river Amixon red crimson with the blood of the uncounted thousands of Skaven sacrificed in the invocation. The time of Sotek was nigh. In the Skaven stronghold, the comet had been taken as an omen of another kind. A mighty snake infestation drove the Skaven up from their tunnels into the ruins, the serpents proving virtually immune to every pestilence that the plague monks unleashed upon them. After a great many battles, the Skaven were pushed all the way back to Quetzal, where they gathered the full force of all their armies. Surrounded by the sacred hosts of the temple cities, the plague lords of Clan Pestilence had but one recourse if they wished to survive. Mustering their armies into a single horde, an ocean of rat spawn stretching from one horizon to the other, the plague lords led the entire clan in a breakout that ground through the lizardman armies and fought their way many hundreds of miles east to the coast. Every step of the way was a mighty battle, for the lizardmen knew that they would never get a better chance to wipe the rat spawn from the face of the world once and for all. The final battle was fought upon the vitrified shores of Fuming Serpent Island, and it is said that Sotek himself appeared at its height, accompanied by his myriad slithering legions of snake spawn as the plague lords made their escape across the ocean. Legend states that the serpent god dove into the sea after the rats and pursued them across the world to the Southlands. It is also said that from the Southlands he slithered into the depths of the earth in his relentless pursuit of the Skaven, and now lurks there, feeding endlessly on the rat spawn and protecting his people from the menace forever. Such is the myth of Sotek. The mage priest could no longer ignore the power of the god of the Skinks. Tehenhauin, the prophet of Sotek, was summoned to speak before the High Slan. He revealed the prophecy of Sotek upon the sacred plaques. It was now clear that the prophecy was in truth the words of the old ones. The mage priest declared that new pyramid temples be raised up to honor Sotek in every city, so that the cult of Sotek became preeminent among the lizardmen. Every temple of Sotek has a sacred snake pit of great depth. At the bottom of the pit dwells an ancient and enormous serpent. These serpents have been nurtured for centuries by the skinks because they are sacred to Sotek. All snakes are in fact sacred to Sotek, but the more gigantic the serpent, the more sacred it is. The Lestrian jungle is home to many strange varieties of venomous or constrictive snakes, which can live to a great age and grow to an enormous size. Sotek is honored and invoked by throwing sacrificial victims into the snake pit to be devoured by the sacred serpent. Enemies captured in battle are acceptable as Sotek's rightful tribute of sacrifices. Sotek is most gratified by Skaven sacrificial victims because he relishes greatly the flesh of the rodent spawn. The lizardmen are therefore always eager to render such delicacies to their beloved god. So that was the very first iteration of this particular story. But here's a couple of other fun little tidbits. So let's learn about some of Tehenhauin's battle tactics. Upon the field of battle, the red host of Tehenhauin is wont to attack in the manner of its patron deity, the twin-tailed serpent. As the snake slithers through the undergrowth, so the red host makes use of its knowledge of the jungle, silently approaching the enemy and awaiting the opportune moment to strike. At the moment of attack, the host strikes with lethal intent, focusing all its venomous hatred into the enemy's weakest point. Throughout history, the spawning pools have produced such hosts at times of great strife, but the greatest such army was that led by Tehenhauin, the Prophet of Sotek, and Scourge of the Rat Spawn. So that's some of the really, really old lore, older stuff. So let's look at some lore facts that are a little more modern. This is why the Read a Lore Story Redeem is good, because you get a lot of deets. So first, let us hear of Chief Paquinchi, the standard bearer of Tehenhauin. Throughout the tumultuous age of strife, the armies of Tehenhauin, the Prophet of Sotek, marched to war against the Skaven hordes of Clan Pestilence. Many were the totems of that great war, but the most famous relic of that era is beyond a doubt the loathsome Skaven pelt banner of Paquinchi. Cut from the plague-ridden hide of a plague pontifex personally slain by Chief Paquinchi himself, it was crafted when the fork-tailed comet lit even the daytime sky, and many blessings of the serpent god have been put upon this vile hide. Ever since, Paquinchi's standard has driven lizardmen warriors into a murderous frenzy, stirring their reptilian blood to great heights of bloodlust. Many victories have been won beneath the Skaven pelt banner, and with each triumph, post-battle sacrifices furnished further fresh pelts to adorn the powerful icon of the wrath of Lustria unleashed. The Ratkin have grown to particularly loathe the standard, for its appearance has heralded the doom of so many of their kind. Speaking of Paquinchi, let's hear a little bit more about him. Where is he? Come here, you little shit. I know you're in here. Paquinchi, bearer of the war banner of the Red Host. Throughout the tumultuous age of strife, Tehenhauin's armies always marched to war beneath the protection of the prophecy of Sotek, carved upon its plaque and held aloft by the prophet himself or by his attendant. But many lesser totems of the serpent god accompany his armies, and the red crests and their skink chiefs carried these. Some totems were serpent forms and made with gleaming gold and studded with green and red gems, whilst others bore inscriptions of the words of Tehenhauin. One totem was a hide cut from the back of the plague pontifex Quetch, who was defeated by the skink chief Paquinchi at the Battle of the Golden Star. Paquinchi mounted the plague-ridden hide upon a pole and bore it into battle as the army's war banner, and so revolting was its stink that the entire army was driven into a murderous rage by its very presence upon the field of war. Is this live? Yes, this is live. Someone did the big boy redeem. So I am reading a myriad of lore facts about Tehenhauin so that he gets his points worth. Here's another note about Tehenhauin. Tehenhauin is the name of the first and greatest prophet of the serpent god Sotek. Fun fact, there actually are multiple prophets, but Tehenhauin is the oldest and the best. It began with Tehenhauin rallied the population of disease-ridden Chakwa, leading them out of that defiled city. Before he left, he claimed two treasures, a gleaming sacrificial blade and the hidden plaques of Chakwa, which proclaimed the coming of the serpent god. Turning the plaques into a totem, Tehenhauin bore them away at the forefront of the massive skink migration. In this way, a groundswell of momentum built behind Tehenhauin and placed him at the apex of the new cult of Sotek. Idolized by his fellow skinks in a manner previously reserved for mage priests, Tehenhauin prophesied the serpent god's coming. Things may have gone ill for Tehenhauin, yet the skink priest backed his chittering oratory with bold acts, leading armies of followers to victory after victory over the Skaven that were then rampaging across Lustria. Many thousands of captured rat men were cruelly sacrificed to Sotek, acts that Tehenhauin promised would bring forth their vengeful god. The appearance of a twin-tailed comet in the skies was taken as proof of his imminent arrival. Upon the field of battle, Tehenhauin attacked in the manner of his twin-tailed deity, forked assaults. A serpent strikes quickly, and so too did Tehenhauin, focusing his army's venomous energy on the enemy's weak points. As if in answer to his many captives, serpents of all varieties formed a writhing carpet at his feet. After leading his troops to victory at the Maliente swamp, Tehenhauin had grown so popular that the Slann had to consider his wishes. None know Tehenhauin's ultimate fate, but some say he is still using his powers to hunt the hated vermin. It would seem impossible for a short-lived skink to attain this length of years, but it is whispered that as a snake sheds its skin and is renewed, so too is Sotek's chosen. Since those days, at times of great import, a single red-crested skink priest has emerged from the deep jungle, claiming the title of Tehenhauin, the once and future prophet of Sotek. Blade of the Serpent's Tongue. This sacrificial dagger was crafted by the most skilled of Chakwa's skink artificers and enchanted to drip with a deadly venom. Also, here's that fun fact I told you about... oh gosh, where is the fact about Krokgar and his buddy Tehenhauin? Nope. 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 It's in here somewhere. Oh, actually, here's a fun fact for you. 2502, right? So 2502, oh, they're ads? Oh. If only you had a sub. Gives me a sec to get caught up here. Estebar, thanks so much for the 4 months of Prime. Mr. Lintelka, thanks for the 5 months of Prime. Shade Zaku, thank you very much for the 2 months. I appreciate the lurk, my dude. Always good to see you. All right. Ads over. Okay, that actually gives me a second to find this other page I'm looking for. Ah! Tehenhauin is an individual, not a reincarnation. For those curious. All right, so do sacrifice. Those few races that encounter the lizardmen and live to tell of it find them an alien and incomprehensible race, utterly cold and devoid of compassion. Like wild beasts, the lizardmen are instinctive and savage. They are able to slaughter every last one of their foes with brutal efficiency, and they do not know the meaning of remorse. However, the lizardmen way of war is not inherently cruel. Even when mercilessly mauling an invader or wiping out those deemed undesirable, the lizardmen do not kill wantonly. That changed against the Skaven. While superstitious acts have gained in popularity since the loss of the old ones, these were taken to horrific new levels with the coming of the new god, Sotek. Inspired by Tehenhauin, skink priests led the ritualistic slaughter of untold thousands of ratmen. These Skaven were sacrificed in horrific fashion, sometimes thrown alive into writhing pits of serpents, other times split open and choice organs proffered to the heavens. If the Skaven was lucky, he was simply beheaded by a Saurus executioner. It is recorded that Krokgar, a mighty Saurus leader, has personally delivered the killing stroke to over 1,000 Skaven warlords since the rise of Sotek. Entire temple cities would turn out to watch the sacrifice of an important Skaven commander, the vast plazas filling with clamorous skinks. For the most part, the inscrutable Slann mage priests leave such barbaric practices alone. Although they could no longer ignore the populist rise of the new god Sotek, nor could they rein in the base practices of offering up sacrifice to attract the blessings of the gods. And then this will be the last thing I share for now. 2502 of the Imperial Calendar. So this is the year that Karl Franz ascends to the throne of Emperor, and is also when you would begin your campaign, theoretically, in Immortal Empires. It is foreseen that a device being built by the Skaven in their lair of Slagmire must not be completed. Tehenhauin is chosen to lead the assault, and the Slann use magic to transport the Prophet of Sotek and his army into the Skaven den. A 3-year battle leads to the eventual defeat of the Skaven and the destruction of their rocket invention. Slagmire is destroyed. And fun fact, if you're wondering where Slagmire is, it's, if I recall correctly, it's roughly in the ballpark of the Grey Mountains. So there was a huge secret war between the Skaven and the Lizardmen led by Tehenhauin in the old world that nobody really knew about. All right. I'm going to turn Sound Alerts back on, and I'm going to get caught up with all these lore facts real quick. Has Neferata's sisterhood ever had any real connection with Karl Franz? Not that we've been able to, like, not that's been able to be explicitly proven, but it is extremely likely that Neferata has some kind of hold or some agent extremely close to the Emperor. What do I think about Chaos Lords able to become undivided demon princes? We already have Daniel, so the whole thing about Be'lakor being the only undivided demon prince seems to no longer be canon, at least from a Total War Warhammer perspective. So it doesn't bother me. It would have bothered me if it had just kind of come out of nowhere, but with Daniel already kind of being established as being able to do it, I don't care. It's fine. Did Malus Darkblade look more like a typical demon in the books, or just the veins and eyes like Total War Warhammer 2? When he would transform, or when he would let Zarkan possess him? No, I would say that he looked more, it's more like, you could tell he's possessed, but he wouldn't transform. We don't see Malice transform until the end times. In the end times, Zarkan actually fully takes over, and Malice is essentially snuffed out within. Like, Malice's soul is devoured by Zarkan, and Zarkan possesses his body fully, and he turns into like a big horrible monster that's practically unstoppable until Tyrion kills him. Hi, Sotek. Keep up the great work and hope you're staying cool, my fellow Austinite. I do not live in Austin. I live in Texas, but not Austin. I actually live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I hope you're doing well down in Austin. Was wondering what the runic properties of the Dwarf Throne of Power, and if there are any cool stories that show them off. Oh gosh, so the most important rune on the Dwarven Throne of Power is the rune of Azamar, and the rune of Azamar is the rune that represents the Karaz Ankor as a concept. And the dwarfs, it's been passed down by the Dawi that so long as the rune of Azamar remains intact, the dwarfs will endure and they will survive. Should it ever crack or be shattered or lose its runic power, then that will signal the end of the dwarven race. So, you know, spoilers, during the end times, it gets cracked and all the magic fades out of it. But the rune of Azamar is by far the most important rune on the Throne of Power, because it's what basically makes the Throne of Power inviolable. There is like practically nothing that can reach the High King while he's standing atop it. I mean, some stuff can get through, but it has to be insanely strong and persistent. But the rune of Azamar is by far the most important. It's very likely there are further runes. There's probably runes of warding. There's probably runes that like project the High King's voice and allow his presence to be felt more keenly by his fellow dwarfs. But the big thing you want to focus on is the rune of Azamar, which you could read about significantly in pretty much any book Thorgrim shows up in. Any of the Dwarf Army books talk about it a fair bit. It's also, I believe, talked about in the War of Vengeance trilogy. I believe both Gotrek Starbreaker and Snorri Whitebeard, I think, talk about it a little bit. And Thorgrim talks about it quite a bit in the End Times, and also, I believe, in his personal novella. Holy Artist, thanks for the hydrate. Arthur, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for the posture checks. Who is the most powerful Nurgle champion? Mortal champion, the most powerful. Okay, if you count the Glotkin, then the Glotkin are far, like, they are Nurgle's most powerful champion by like a billion miles. The only Nurgle character that I think could go toe to toe with the Glotkin and maybe fight them would be Kugoth Plaguefather, but anyone short of Kugoth would get absolutely curb stomped. And I don't really think Kugoth would beat them. Because they are basically a Chaos Lord, a Greater Demon of Nurgle, and a Chaos Sorcerer Lord combined into a single person. Well, a single model, because it's literally 3 people together. Yeah. Does Karl Franz have children? Yes, Karl Franz has 2 daughters and a son. And his son is kind of estranged from him in recent times. Despite being the crown prince to the throne of Reichland. My heroes, PB&J, thanks for the posture check. I appreciate it. All right, we're all caught up. Jesus, that was a lot. What is this? Oh, whenever you get a chance, I think I figured out how to fix the syncing issues. Ah. Okay, I will fix that momentarily. Cool. I forgot something? Did I? I don't think I forgot anything. Are Black Arcs just floating cities? Essentially, yeah, but they've been heavily expanded upon after their initial break free during the Sundering. But because like those big rocks that they're on, that pretty hefty chunk of land actually goes pretty far down, and they've built a lot of like subterranean things into it, and they're also pulled around by like terrifying giant sea monsters typically. Pegasus, you're very assertive or very presumptuous of you, but hello, hope you're doing well. Isn't Lossifex a demon prince of Slaanesh? I mean, yeah, but he's just a face. He's literally just a head at this point. Not even a full head, just really a face. Dude, I really hope they go crazy with animations on Valkia. Like, I hope Lossifax is able to, like, do stuff. What's my favorite faction, AOS and White? Nighthaunt. Nighthaunt have amazing lore. And there's just something super empowering about playing them. They're just really fun. I just like them a lot, and they please me greatly. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I would like to play some Vermintide tonight, but I also have not eaten dinner yet. So here's what I'm thinking. I think I am going to very briefly, essentially like pause the stream, and I'm going to take 1 hour to get dinner. Because I have to like go somewhere and get it. And plus my mother is coming home today, I believe. Yes, she is. And I have not seen her in like a week. So does Valkia Shield talk? Oh yeah. Lossifax, he doesn't just talk, dude. So the reason Lossifax was decapitated and made into a shield is basically his distracting aura and his incredibly like foul language and lascivious tongue are used as a distraction. So like when you fight Valkia, she will shield with Lossifax, and he basically starts like trying to seduce you or tempt you or gross you out or insult you or piss you off. Like he's yelling at you constantly. He's not just there for looks. He has a functional purpose. Does he just troll Valkia? No, because he's under her control. Hey, BRIB cat is on fire. Oh no. Thanks for the prompt stuff. I appreciate that. You should, probably take care of that. That's a hilarious name. Though moderately concerning. You skip dinner and play Immortal Empires? No, I wouldn't do that to y'all. Is he enjoying himself? I think he enjoys himself a little bit, but not too much. Plus, for Valkia, whenever someone tries to stab her, I don't think she really tries to dodge it. I think she just tries to parry it. And by parry it, I mean allowing Lossifax to just take it straight to the face. Hold on, let me read the exact quote about what he does as a shield. There we go. The Gore Queen. Let's see. The horned head of Losifax has adorned Volkia's shield ever since the Demon Prince angered the Gore Queen. His hypnotic gaze, hypnotic eyes gazing at all who dare come too close. But he also screams and stuff. But yes, he has hypnotic eyes. And I don't mean hypnotic eyes in that you're like, oh, those are pretty eyes. He literally has hypnotism as one of his abilities. So he hypnotizes you so that your defense is lower and then you get killed. All right. So let's take a brief break. 1 hour. So about 10 p.m. CST. So it's actually 50 minutes, but we're going to take a break for a little bit, roughly an hour. I will send us on a raid. To go visit a friend. Hiragi's doing a sponsored stream. Let's support our friend doing a sponsored stream. How do we play Vermintide with me? Make sure you have me added as a friend on Steam. That's all you got to do. And then we will be cycling through people as we play. So go get dinner, go stretch your legs, chat, walk around, make sure that your legs are getting proper blood flow, yada, yada, yada. Someone think of a raid message, please. I'm much too lazy. Also, yeah, join the Discord. There's lots of big votes and stuff going on. What's going to be our raid message, chat? Come on. Who wants to be important? Oh, Hammond, you went wild with the emotes there. Do an hour 15 so I can watch the new video. Okay, well, let's do like let's just do 1 hour. Just 1 hour on the dot. So we'll start at like 10:15. 10:15 PST instead of... Yeah, okay, Hammond. That's so many emotes. Whatever. It works. Ooh, the snake hug of love. Okay, I want to go with Hawks. I like Hawks. No, don't raid me now. I'm leaving. Okay, hey, everyone that just raided, I will be back in 1 hour. 1 hour, I will be back. Elkai Gamer, thanks so much for the raid. I'm literally like, I've started another raid. I'm about to leave. I will be back in 1 hour to play Vermintide. But if you haven't already, maybe pop by the YouTube channel. I just did an hour-long video. You can go watch right now if you're bored and you're like, God damn, I want something to watch. But you can also join the raid. I don't know. Anyway, here's the raid message. I gotta go. I'm going to the post screen now. I'm gonna go get dinner. I'll be back in 1 hour for Vermintide. See you guys later. Bye, bye, bye. Oh yeah, copy that message and spam the shit out of it when we get there. Tell Hiragi I said hi. She's doing a sponsored stream. Be nice. She has a lovely voice. She's super talented. Very good streamer. Very good singer. All sorts of stuff. Tell her I said hello. Support whatever sponsored thing she's doing. Let's help our friends. And we will see you guys later. Okay, thanks again for the raid. So sorry. Appreciate you.